Hadley reached across the table, her voice barely a murmur. It's okay, Ikemba. We all have things we wish we could change. All of us. An unexpected laugh escaped Zara as she wiped her own tears. This game really does know how to stir the pot, huh? Or open hearts, Hadley corrected, her voice steadier now, buoyed by the camaraderie. Ikemba smiled slightly, a flicker of relief crossing his features. But it's not just me who has to apologize. I apologize for not being honest, for keeping people at arm's length. Should we start a round of apologies then? Jeremy joked lightly, but his gaze was serious as he looked each person in the eye. The laughter that erupted was cathartic, a shared release from the tension that had hung in the air. As they moved from one heartfelt confession to another, it became clear that each revelation stripped back layers, peeling away the masks they'd worn for too long. The bonds fortified, promising that this moment, messy and raw, would linger long past the end of the game. Maybe we should create a new game mode, Hadley suggested with a teasing grin. Apology round. Only if the buzzer is included, Zara retorted, laughter fluttering through the room once more, threading their hearts together in a newfound resilience. And as the warmth of connection enveloped them, Ikemba realized that sometimes the journey to honesty could lead to the highest peaks of compassion. Scene 31, Romantic Tensions. The air crackled with an electric charge as dark clouds rolled over the horizon, pregnant with the promise of a summer storm. The group had gathered in the cozy, dimly lit living room, the flickering candles casting shadows that danced along the walls. A corner of the room bore the remnants of their last revelation, a half-empty bottle of wine and scattered game cards from the ongoing emotional gauntlet. Laughter and whispering conversations floated through the space, weaving an intricate tapestry of unease and excitement. Ikemba leaned against the window, arms crossed, his eyes narrowed as he watched the rain begin to patter against the glass. The rhythmic sound mirrored the heartbeat of unspoken yearnings swirling around the room. He had noticed, over the past few rounds of the game, that Hadley was more animated than usual, her infectious spirit illuminating the gloomy setting. Okay, who's ready for our next question? Amber exclaimed, her blonde curls bouncing eagerly. She flicked her gaze between the others in the room, searching for their reactions. Hadley's laughter rang out, a bell of pure joy, even as an undercurrent of tension simmered beneath. Bring it on. I need something to distract me from how hot it is in here, she quipped, wiping a bead of sweat from her brow. The line echoed, beckoning laughter and knowing glances among her friends. Tell me about it. I'm pretty sure I'm melting, Kyle joked, playing with the collar of his shirt. Or maybe I'm just imagining a sauna of romance building up around us. The playful tone elicited chuckles from several corners, lightening the atmosphere. Well, you should focus on keeping cool, Ikemba shot back, smirking. But his eyes lingered on Hadley, noting the way her laughter brought an unexpected warmth to the otherwise oppressive air. Any word from www.seriousgame.net that can help us chill out? Your jokes definitely aren't helping, Tara chimed in with mock exasperation, flicking a tip of her shoe at Ikemba, who feigned indignation. But honestly, let's dive in. What's the next question, Amber? Amber picked up her phone, unearthing the next prompt. All right, everyone, here it is. What's a secret you've kept that you wish someone would have discovered? She scanned the room with a teasing smile, waiting for the inevitable reactions. A collective intake of breath punctuated the air, puncturing one of the many layers of their camaraderie. Oh, this is going to be juicy, Ikemba muttered, maintaining his casual demeanor, though the flicker of apprehension in Hadley's eyes did not escape him. Kyle, eager to break the silence, raised his hand. I'll go first. I wanted to be an artist, but I told my parents I'd pursue architecture instead. Honestly, I hid my sketchbooks all through high school, he admitted, smiling broadly but with a hint of regret. Turns out my mom found them and still tells everyone about my lost talent. Typical mom move, Hadley said, her brows raised in sympathy. But that's great. You should revisit that passion. Yeah, I guess. But what about you, Hadley? Tara asked, a conspiratorial gleam in her eye. You must have secrets hiding all over the place. Hadley hesitated, biting her lip. Well, I used to write poetry. I hid it from everyone, thinking I wouldn't be taken seriously in business, but it was my escape. She glanced at Ikemba, who seemed to catch the weight of her words. Why keep it a secret? He probed, his voice softer, revealing a glimmer of interest that sent warmth flooding through her. Hadley shrugged, the smile fading just slightly. I was afraid of being seen as just the girl with the dreams, but maybe you guys could have helped me? The group burst into an affectionate chorus of ahs, prompting laughter that felt bittersweet. Tara nudged Hadley playfully. Another reason we love you, girl. You're so bright. Absolutely, Ikemba added, the words slipping out before he could reel them back. He looked at her, the room blurring momentarily as the connection intensified. You know, it's the kind of thing that makes you real. She met his gaze, an unspoken understanding igniting a tension in the air. It felt as if the world outside had faded completely, leaving only them surrounded by flickering lights and warmth. But just as the moment hovered on the brink of something profound, Amber's enthusiastic voice broke through. Buzzer, she called, slapping her palm on the table, eliciting laughter while everyone's eyes darted toward Hadley. What? No way. I was being honest, Hadley protested, her cheeks flushing. You call that honesty? Amber teased, grinning wildly. Tell everyone about how you'd compete in poetry slams but never had the guts to. Ikemba shook his head with a chuckle, and the laughter echoed around them, dispelling the tension. Yet in the midst of the merriment, the lingering gaze between him and Hadley spoke louder than their laughter ever could. All right, who's next? Amber said, ready to dive back into the next round of revelations. As they began to talk again, Ikemba couldn't help but wonder how many layers were left undiscovered, not only within the game, but among the bonds they were forging in the face of every raw truth revealed. The camaraderie was there, but so were the tremors of tension that hinted at deeper connections yet to unfold. Scene 32. Growth and Self-Discovery. A heavy rain fell outside. Rhythmic drumming echoed against the windows of the dimly lit room where the group had gathered once again. The golden glow of flickering candles danced across the faces of the dozen friends seated in a circle, their expressions a mix of nervous anticipation and comfortable familiarity. Ikemba sat slightly withdrawn, his gaze occasionally drifting to the window where streaks of rain blurred the outlines of the outside world. In contrast, Hadley leaned forward, her hands clasped tightly, reflecting the tension and hope swirling in her chest. The air was electric, charged with a cocktail of emotion. After weeks of playing the infamous game from www.seriousgame.net, they had peeled back layers of each other's lives, revealing truths that often felt too raw to handle. Okay, let's face it, last time was an emotional roller coaster, but I think we've grown since then, Hadley began, her voice breaking the silence that had settled over them. We owe it to ourselves to get deeper today, to discover who we've really become. Or who we're trying to be, Maya interjected, a whimsical tone in her voice that was both playful and genuine. She twirled a stray curl with a finger, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Game questions aren't always easy, but you never know what's waiting to be unearthed. Right. So let's get this started, shouted Evan, his enthusiasm a bright spark against the gray backdrop of the storm outside. The sound of the buzzer rested in his hands, taunting them all. But first, the no half-truths rule is in effect. Just remember, the rest of us have to live with your answers, so give us the good stuff. Ikemba chuckled dryly, still quiet. Just don't be surprised if you end up buzzing me first, Evan. You know I love to deflect. At that, Evan grinned widely, raising the buzzer. There's the spirit. Let's see how well you can dodge me. No dodging, Hadley declared dramatically, her laughter echoing in the room and easing the tension. Who wants to ask the first question? Go for it, Hadley, Maya replied, nudging her encouragingly. Hadley took a deep breath, her fingers brushing against the device that would ignite their truths. What's one thing you wish you could change about yourself and why? Silence fell again, this time thicker, as everyone considered their answers. Hadley's own heart raced. Was this just another moment of vulnerability waiting to unfold? I guess for me, I wish I didn't care so much about what people think, said Lila, her voice soft yet steady. I spend so much energy trying to please others that I often forget to take care of myself. You and me both, said Leo, his brown eyes meeting hers in empathetic understanding. It's like a perpetual cycle. With a gentle smile, he added, What if we made a pact to be more unapologetically ourselves? Hadley felt a surge of camaraderie blossom as laughter flowed, pushing through any lingering shadows. Okay, hold on. Can we pause? Pact or no pact, I'm buzzing you, Leo. You have to give us something juicier than that. Ah, classic. Leo laughed, mockingly raising his hands. Fine. I wish I could be more spontaneous like you, Hadley. I envy how you dive into everything without hesitation. Even when I dive into trouble? Hadley grinned, lightness blossoming in her chest. Especially then. Fresh connections sparked between the group, snickers interspersing deep revelations, keeping the atmosphere alive and warm. Akemba sat, surprisingly engaged, as he watched everyone connect. Maya nudged him, a teasing smile dancing on her lips. Come on, Commander, you can't sit this one out. Your turn. His lips twitched, and he shook his head. I don't think my answer could top all of this. Maybe it doesn't have to, Maya said gently. What matters is the truth. With a deep breath, he reluctantly began. If I could change one thing, it would be to open up more, to let people in. I've hidden behind my humor for too long. The room fell silent, everyone processing the weight of his revelation. Unexpected camaraderie rocked his insides. He felt exposed yet somehow freed. Buzzed, Evan shouted suddenly, his laughter puncturing the solemnity. The room erupted, familiar teasing blooming into warm banter. But only if you do it while standing on one leg next time. The laughter shielded the vulnerability encasing them, but when the snickers subsided, eyes brimmed with unshed tears from truths unveiled, secrets wafted gently into the shared space. Here's to growth, Hadley concluded with sincerity wrapping around her words, her heart swelling with the bonds they were forging. May we all dare to change. As another thunderclap reverberated outside, the storm turned fierce, yet inside, a different kind of storm brewed. But this one was full of connection. Scene 33. Confronting inner demons. As the soft humming of the AI faded into a reverberating silence, the room trembled with a palpable tension. Hadley leaned forward, her fingers drumming against her knee as she fixed her gaze on the group. So, what's something you faced that almost broke you but you somehow overcame? Her eyes darted around the circle, each person caught in their own thoughts, a lingering hush enveloping them. I can't believe that just came from www.seriousgame.net, Jamal said, breaking the tension with a half smile. He rubbed the back of his neck, glancing at the ceiling as though searching for answers among the luminous patterns. I guess for me, it was when I lost my mom, I didn't know how to be strong without her. He paused, swallowed hard, and the room seemed to shrink around him, amplifying his vulnerability. It felt like the ground disappeared beneath me. Ikemba's jaw tightened. He watched Jamal intently, an understanding flickering in his cool, cynical gaze. I can relate, he said softly, his voice deeper than usual. I lost my brother when I was younger. It took me years to forgive myself for not being there. Wait, Hadley interjected, leaning forward. What do you mean by that? How didn't you? With a swift motion, Ikemba silenced her with a gentle wave of his hand, the tension in his body unmistakable. It's not the place. Not yet. He shifted his focus briefly to Jamal. Their shared understanding radiated warmth through the circle. Tell me more, Jamal, Hadley prompted, her voice filled with genuine curiosity that broke through her own impulsiveness. What did you do after that? I cried, Jamal admitted, his voice wavering slightly, drawing sympathetic nods from the others. But eventually, I had to face it, you know? I learned to see her in everything. In laughter, in food, even in the smallest of things. His eyes glistened. But honestly, it still feels like I'm just holding on to memories of her while living my life. I think that's brave, Maya chimed in, her soft voice barely above a whisper. Facing memories means you don't let fear win. It took me a long time to admit that my own fear had me running away from connections. She straightened up, courage breaking through the layers of her usually reserved demeanor. Hadley nodded vigorously. Like what you said, Maya. I mean, as much as I bounce around from idea to idea, I'm terrified of settling down. I worry that whatever I touch just turns to ash. The room dimmed, her confession casting shadows of shared doubt among them. Then why are you here? Malik asked pointedly, a slight grin teasing the corners of his lips, bringing a breath of levity to the gravity in the air. If everything just turns to ash, what are we doing at this game? Competing for your heart, Ikemba shot back, the dry humor act slipping into the mix, and laughter trickled through the solemn atmosphere. Not quite what I meant, Malik laughed, rolling his eyes. But I appreciate the effort, Ikemba. Hey, that was funny, Hadley interjected, half laughing, half shaking her head at the camaraderie that rose from a serious question. But really, this game is kind of beautiful. It uncovers things we bury so deep, like what's a secret you wish you never had? All eyes fell to Adrian, who had been unusually quiet. The ambient light danced across his face, showcasing a shadow of a secret yet untold. A clenched jaw and a lingering glance toward the floor spoke volumes. Adrian, you okay? Maya leaned in, concern radiating from her tone. Yeah, he paused, then chuckled softly. I cheated in school once. Didn't have my own answers, so I took someone else's. It stuck with me. He shook his head, embarrassment washing over him. But what hurt more was hiding it. I lost trust with friends who didn't know, so it's a secret I carry like a weight. The room stilled, a tension weaving deeper into their connection. It was a moment of recognition, the kind of understanding that knitted the fabric of lives together. You're not alone, Adrian, Ikemba said gently, his expression softening, revealing glimpses of an empathetic heart buried beneath layers of cynicism. The laughter quieted, the air thickening with an unspoken resolve that filled the void. Each character now raw with their truth, the walls they had built began to crumble. Life has its demons, Jamal said, his voice steady. But the strength to face them together? That's something else entirely. In the heart of that realization, bonds formed and tensions lifted, illuminating hope for deeper connections. The game continued, unearthing layers they never intended to reveal, each question an invitation to embrace the messy essence of being human, one lie and one truth at a time. Scene 34, Boundaries Revisited. The evening sun filtered through the large windows of the loft, casting a warm golden hue that danced across the faces of the group, gathered around a low coffee table laden with half-empty mugs and forgotten snack bowls. The rich scent of cinnamon wafted from a forgotten candle, mingling with laughter and the palpable tension that filled the air. This was no ordinary night. It felt electric, charged with the weight of unsaid things and buried secrets. Ikemba leaned back against the plush couch, arms crossed, fighting a smile as Hadley animatedly recounted her latest escapade with a local entrepreneur. You should have seen his face when I told him the profit margin was the same as his last 3 failed ventures. Hadley laughed, her green eyes sparkling with mischief. It was like Christmas morning for me. Yeah, well, at least you didn't need a veiled pitch. My life became a series of corporate games after I left, Ikemba retorted, his tone light, but a shadow flickered across his eyes. He often masked discomfort with humor, but tonight, even he could tell the boundaries were shifting. Everybody's playing a game, Ikemba, Angela chimed in, her tone turning introspective. What matters is that we choose how to play it. The group's laughter faded, a shared understanding weaving through them. That invisible thread of vulnerability tugged at the edges of their comfort zones. Caleb shifted in his seat, a nervous energy radiating from him. He cleared his throat, fumbling with the hem of his shirt. Can we get personal again? He asked, his voice quieter. This last question really got me thinking. A series of nods rippled through the group, unspoken agreements sparking a sense of eagerness. Hadley leaned forward, excitement glinting in her eyes like a child anticipating a reveal. What's the question today? Instead of answering immediately, Caleb let his gaze drop, as if the weight of his vulnerability anchored him to the floor. You've all shared things about your past, and I don't know. It brings up a lot for me. Do you want to talk about it? Ikemba asked, softening his demeanor slightly, his usual witty sarcasm momentarily set aside. Caleb's laugh was bittersweet. I guess it's just... He paused, searching for the right words. Growing up, I always felt like I had to be someone I wasn't to keep everyone around me happy. Like I put up these boundaries to protect myself. But what did it really cost me? His voice trembled with sincerity and a hush fell over the group. Boundaries are complicated, Ikemba reflected, leaning forward slightly, drawn into the shared moment. They protect us, but they can also keep the ones we love at a distance. You never talk about your struggles around others. Maybe it's time we start breaking them down together, Caleb suggested, a flicker of hope sparking in his expression. Ooh, Hadley interjected, her eyes lighting up with enthusiasm. What kind of boundary would you want to break first? The room crackled with shared anticipation, the air thick with emotions poised to spill over. As Caleb sought his answer, Michelle, who had been quiet till now, leaned forward. I remember feeling the same way in college. I kept everyone out with a smile on my face, afraid they'd see the chaos inside. But now, I've realized letting people in doesn't weaken you, it's a different kind of strength. A sudden wave of warmth encased the room, and laughter rippled to the surface. Angela touched Michelle's arm. That's the spirit. Letting go leads to real connection. The buzz in the room intensified, rich with possibility. Ikemba raised an eyebrow playfully, saying, All right, I vote we buzz someone until they spill the truth. It might just set you free, Caleb. The community tentatively agreed, the mood lifted by nervous giggles, each feeling the piquancy of shared vulnerability. Laughter banished any lingering walls. Okay, but I'm in. Just promise not to get too deep, Caleb managed, half joking, but the tension in his voice was palpable. Deep is where the treasure is, Hadley chimed, mischief dancing across her features, a challenge sparkling in her eye. The moment spiraled, emotions raw and blooming, the group consciously choosing to push limits and reveal themselves. And just as they prepared to plunge deeper into the revelatory game, the soft glow of the room hummed with unspoken promises and woven connections, echoing Caleb's truth. In the sharing, they found strength anew, ready to explore the unknown territories of their relationships. Sometimes, boundaries are a prison we build for ourselves, Michelle mused, her soft voice carrying the weight of understanding. Maybe together we can escape. Scene 35, Unexpected Revelations. The dim light from the flickering candles cast wavering shadows across the walls of the living room, making the ambiance sweltering, alive with anticipation. The storm outside rattled the windows, rain tapping insistently on the glass like a curious guest trying to get in. A flash of lightning illuminated the 16 faces of the group, each line and crease aflame with tension. I just don't understand, Marie said, brow furrowed as she clutched a throw pillow to her chest. How could you not tell us that? Her voice, though steady, quivered with disbelief. Because it's complicated, all right? Hadley snapped, running a hand through her ear-length curls, a gesture of frustration. Not everything is black and white. People have reasons. Ikemba, sitting at the edge of the couch, leaned back, arms crossed, cloaking himself in his usual cool demeanor. But his eyes betrayed him, sharp, watching. What are we even talking about now? Let's just stick to the question, shall we? He glanced over at Marisol, their designated moderator, who was poised, ready to keep the evening's exploration on course. The question from www.seriousgame.net was about secrets we keep from our friends. How are we still on Hadley? Kyle interjected, his voice playful yet edged with tension. Let's have more fire. We're in deep now. The group chuckled, a momentary reprieve with but the laughter faded quickly. The room thickened once again, with emotions too raw to ignore. Marisol's eyes sparkled mischievously. Everyone has to answer. It's the rule. Fine, Hadley said, pursing her lips. My secret? I'm terrified none of you actually care about me. There, happy? Her voice cracked, and the impact was palpable. A collective intake of breath echoed in the room, like a sudden gust that sent shivers through everyone. Wow, Jake said, leaning forward, his gaze earnest. Hadley, we do care. Seriously, you act like you're all tough and fearless, but none of us are. Before Hadley could respond, the game took an unexpected turn as Marisol's eyes landed on Ikemba. What about you, Ikemba? You tell everyone you're Mr. Cool, think we don't notice? With an easy smirk, Ikemba shrugged. Let's see. I keep a lot to myself. He paused, a flicker of something deeper shadowing his humor. But I guess I fear I might never live up to my old man's expectations. Maybe I'm more of a disappointment than I let on. The group fell silent. Even the rain outside seemed to hush, the storming wind holding its breath. Oof, Hadley whispered, leaning closer to Hetty, who murmured words of empathy. But before the moment could settle, Marisol hit her buzzer with deliberate enthusiasm, laughter bubbling up like a sudden tide. Ikemba, I love you, but you're getting buzzed for that half answer. What's the real secret? Ikemba's face flushed a deep crimson as everyone erupted into light-hearted, supportive laughter. What? I'm wounded, he protested, holding a mock hand to his heart. Just then, Marie piped up. You know, it's funny how we all think we're alone in these feelings. There was genuine warmth in her tone, softness threading through her words. I feel that way too. Sometimes I think I'll never be enough. The laughter died again, replaced by a tension that gripped everyone. You think you're alone? Kyle asked, incredulous. I feel that way every time I step on a stage, like everyone's watching, waiting for me to fail. But your last performance was great, Hadley interjected, her voice rising in protest. You were amazing. The conversation swirled, ebbing and flowing with emotion. Secrets unveiled like petals, unexpected connections unfolded. Then came a tuneful sigh from Hetty, who had been quiet. I think the real issue is the masks we wear. Like, I keep everyone at arm's length because of my parents' divorce. The scars are still there, you know? I act like it doesn't bother me, but who am I even kidding? Lightning flickered again, illuminating a fresh face. Sam, sitting silently in the corner, faced the crowd. It's funny, he said wryly. I'm here, always the supportive friend, but deep down, I'm terrified of being alone. I thought I'd found my place with you all, but sometimes... Suddenly, Ikemba's gaze met Sam's, and something unspoken passed between them. I feel that too, Sam whispered, the admission lighter than a feather, yet heavy enough to anchor them all. The dynamics shifted. Intrigue cut through the air like a knife. What had just happened? Connections forged under the stormy skies mirrored the chaos within the room. Wow, said Marie softly, looking at both men. I never knew. As the realization dawned over the group, they leaned in, breaths held tight, the storm outside raging in harmony with the tempest of their revelations. Secrets reveal us, don't they? Hadley murmured, feeling the weight settle in her chest. Yeah, Ikemba said, his gaze piercing through the veil of uncertainty. They do. Scene 36, building momentum. The air in the dimly lit living room crackled with unsaid emotions, thickening like a heavy fog. Ikemba, leaning against the wall, felt the pulse of the moment thrum through the room. His gaze darted around the circle of friends, each encapsulated in their own reveries, each tethered by the invisible string of the game they found themselves lost in. He closed his eyes for a brief moment. The silence hummed, almost singing the promises of uncharted connections waiting to be unearthed. Across the room, Hadley fidgeted, her fingers tapping an unknown rhythm on her knee. The glow from her phone illuminated her face, a beacon in the gathering dusk, as she glanced at the latest question from the game displayed on the screen. What is one secret you've never shared with anyone? Okay, who's going first? She asked, her voice a blend of enthusiasm and mock intimidation. Let's not all jump at once, shall we? Ikemba replied, his smirk hiding layers of internal deliberation. Silence enveloped the group. Someone's got to break the ice, Jay said, his voice tinged with an easygoing bravado that betrayed a flicker of discomfort. He looked over at Sophie, who'd nestled into a cozy corner, a cup of tea cradled between her hands. How about you, Soph? Sophie shrugged, her usual wit slipping away as she met their gazes. I have a secret, she started, her voice but a whisper. But it's not that exciting. Just sometimes I feel like no one really knows who I am. The weight of her words stilled the room, a tangible bond that tightened around them all. Buzzer, Ikemba interjected playfully, puncturing the moment before it could settle too deeply. What are you hiding under that vague cloud? Tell us more. His laughter rang out, echoing against the walls, but in his heart, he knew that her emotional revelation was a lifeline thrown amidst turbulent waters. Fine, Sophie replied, rolling her eyes yet unable to suppress a smile. I would have gotten there eventually, but maybe I'm just afraid of being seen. Hadley jumped in, her tone both quick and earnest. That resonates, Soph. I think everyone here can relate to that. Okay, Ikemba admitted, tapping his chin thoughtfully. So we're all scared of being seen. What does that mean for us? Maybe we should flip the question, Jay suggested. What would you do if you weren't afraid? As murmurs of agreement rippled through the group, the buzz of the conversation intensified. It wasn't long before the laughter turned vibrant, breaking barriers. Stop with the buzz already, Hadley jokingly chided when Ikemba's buzzer sound echoed again. Do you have a death wish? She chuckled, her laughter infectious, swaying some of the more pensive faces. Suddenly, Elizabeth, who had been silent until now, leaned forward, eyes alight. If I could do anything without fear, I would have pursued ballet instead of corporate law. Her voice dipped, exposing an unexpected fragility. But you know, black girls don't get to float in tutus and pirouettes. They're supposed to be grounded. Ikemba looked at her, the sincerity in her heartwarming declaration settling in like a warm hug. That's so powerful, Elizabeth. It's not just about the world seeing you, it's also about how you see yourself. Hadley met Ikemba's gaze, both of them momentarily lost in shared understanding. The game had turned the spotlight on their fears, illuminated their doubts. Okay, next question, Ikemba said, feeling buoyed by the charged energy in the room. If you could change one thing about your past, what would it be? The question hung in the air, a bomb waiting to detonate. The chatter quieted, cautious eyes searching for the right words. I'd make sure my parents knew I turned my life around, Elizabeth confessed, breaking the tension. They thought I was just a waste of potential. But you're not, Ikemba said softly. You're anything but. He felt an urge to reach over and comfort her, but instead shifted his attention back to the group. Jay nodded, his seriousness surprising everyone. I wish I hadn't given up on my art. My mother always said I had a gift, but you know how it is. His voice trailed off, the moment morphing into deep contemplation. Life takes over? Hadley filled in, echoing a sentiment familiar to them all. Exactly, Jay continued. You bury those things until they become secrets. Just like you, Soph. His eyes twinkled with encouragement, heartening the simple collective acceptance among them. The energy shifted again as Hadley stood up abruptly, looking around with fiery determination. Let's be those who float. Let's make each other seen. Ikemba caught her gaze, heart racing in a different sense now. They were more than a group. They were becoming a family, rooted in sharing vulnerabilities and laughter, a soft, unscripted love forming. Agreed, he said, admiration lighting up his expression. Let's keep building on that. As the room filled with spirited debate again, Ikemba stole a glance at Hadley, his heart full as waves of fresh hope rushed through him. Secrets and fears began to fade in the warmth of shared kinship, paving the way for fragile yet resilient connections. Scene 37. Heartfelt vulnerability. The evening air hung thick with moisture, the dim light of the setting sun filtering through the windows like liquid gold. Inside the cozy living room, the walls vibrated with the pulse of their collective anxieties, thick enough to slice with a knife. The curtains fluttered gently, as though whispering secrets to the gathering of friends nestled within. Ikemba leaned against the back of the couch, arms crossed, his gaze drawn to the question currently glowing on the screen. He felt the warmth of Hadley's proximity, rememberable in a way that felt both familiar and electric, igniting complexities within him. The game was prompting a deep dive, and the looming inquiry filled the space with an unspoken tension. Okay, everyone, here's the next question from www.seriousgame.net, Hadley announced, her voice half playful, half serious. What's a vulnerability you've never shared with anyone? Great, Ikemba muttered under his breath, a half smirk playing on his lips. The thought of opening up made his stomach churn. He glanced over at Tara, who sat crisscrossed on the floor, her long hair falling into her face, shielding her eyes like a curtain during a monsoon. He knew she often struggled with sharing personal thoughts, a piece of the mosaic they all were building. Come on, everyone, Tara cheered, summoning audacity. I mean, honestly, this is what we signed up for. A ripple of laughter broke out, lightening the mood momentarily. The sound warmed the room, amplifying their shared camaraderie. Alex chimed in. If I can put my vulnerabilities out there, so can you. Who hasn't cried into a tub of ice cream? Only you, Hank replied with a playful roll of his eyes, but his smile was genuine. And on the rare occasion I cry, it's only into pizza. Laughter echoed again, weaving through the air, bridging hearts with shared levity. Fine, I'll go first, Ikemba declared, his voice steady. He pushed away from the couch, forced his posture back, and steeled himself. I always put on this front, like I've got it all figured out. He paused, swallowing hard as he searched their faces for assurance. But I'm scared, like truly terrified that I'm not good enough. I've buried so much in my past. I'm trying to be perfect, but it's just a mask. The room fell silent, eyes widening in realization as they comprehended the weight of his confession. Ikemba, Hadley whispered, reaching out, but he didn't let her touch fall into an embrace. Instead, he remained anchored where he stood. That's a lot to handle, Tara offered gently, breaking the silence. And it takes courage to admit it. I guess we all have our own masks, don't we? Her eyes sparkled with a hint of wetness as she glanced down, gathering her courage. Vulnerability is powerful and also terrifying. I often hide how afraid I am of failing, of letting everyone down, she confessed. Like I'm constantly doing okay, but underneath it all, I'm barely holding it together sometimes. Hadley leaned in, visibly moved. You are not alone in this. Honestly, I feel like I'm always racing to catch up, to prove that I'm worthy in this industry, but it feels like a never-ending marathon. Sometimes I think I'm not cut out for this. Buzzer! Ikemba interjected abruptly, her confession landing like a thud in the emotional atmosphere. The sudden noise ignited laughter in the room, including Hadley herself, both relieved and embarrassed. Okay, she giggled, throwing her head back, the golden light capturing her jubilant spirit. What do I have to do to answer correctly? Be real, Ikemba said, softer, the edges of his expression giving way to a welcoming smile. No half answers. You've got this. As laughter faded to a hum, Hadley's eyes glistened, revealing a startling vulnerability beneath her vivacious exterior. I guess I just want to be seen and loved for who I really am, flaws and all, and even if that means sharing the messy stuff. Messy is good, Hank nodded, igniting a chorus of affirmations from the group. That's how we connect. Just then, an unexpected crack of thunder echoed outside, the looming storm reflecting their shared turmoil. Heavy rain began to batter against the windows, drumming like an anxious heart. It was as if nature itself urged them to dive deeper into the authenticity they were crafting, forging unbreakable bonds through their fears and truths. Well, since we're apparently bearing our souls tonight, how about I go next? Alex said with a deep breath. I've been married and divorced 3 times. Everyone thinks I'm a hopeless romantic. Truth is, I've given up on love. The atmosphere thickened with silence again, a shared weight pressing down on their shoulders, the vulnerability palpable. A moment later, Hadley touched Alex's shoulder gently, a silent acknowledgement of unspoken pain. They held each other's truths, one by one, wrung them out under the other's gaze, and reformed in ways they had never imagined possible. And soon the sonorous rain cradled their confessions, wrapping them in love and compassion that felt like home. Scene 38. Shared Dreams. The sun cast a golden hue through the bay window, illuminating the eclectic gathering in Ikemba's small but cozy apartment. Voices overlapped, laughter punctuated the air, and the bustling kitchen reverberated with the clattering of mismatched plates and glasses. The game was in full swing, and tonight's question lingered, hanging over the group. What's one dream you've always had but felt too afraid to pursue? Hadley posed, leaning forward, her vibrant enthusiasm a contrast to the more subdued expressions around the room. I mean, come on, Deshaun said, running his fingers through his curls. Are we really doing this? You all know my dreams are bigger than the universe, right? He smirked, pretending to tilt a crown on his head. Laughter erupted. Okay, Your Majesty, Ikemba replied, rolling his eyes playfully. But seriously, what's a dream you're afraid of? Fine. I'll go first, Deshaun said, his expression shifting slightly. I dream of opening a community art center back in my old neighborhood. I want a place where kids can express themselves without judgment. But honestly, I've watched too many people fail. I'm terrified of becoming another statistic. A moment of silence fell over the group as they absorbed the weight of Deshaun's words. It was a heavy burden, a dream draped in reality, and the knot of shared vulnerability tightened among them. Wow, that's really powerful, Tasha said softly, her gaze warm and steady. You'll find a way, Deshaun. I believe that. Cheers to that, Gwendolyn chimed in, raising an imaginary glass. When you do, I expect an invite to the grand opening. Of course, you can be my art critic, he teased, lightening the atmosphere again. Hadley leaned back, her heart racing. She admired Deshaun's honesty but felt a familiar pang of inadequacy creep in. I don't know if I can share mine. It seems so small. Buzzer, Ikemba announced suddenly, feigning exasperation. Everyone erupted into laughter. Seriously? Hadley laughed, shaking her head. You can't just buzz my dreams. Oh, but I can! Ikemba winked. You're not getting a pass, Hadley. What have you got? There was a flicker of hesitation, a shadow of doubt that passed over Hadley's face. All right, I've always wanted to start my own company, but I guess I've been too scared to dive in. I think I think I'm just worried I won't be taken seriously, especially in this industry. The laughter subsided, giving way to murmurs of connection and empathy. I feel you, Tasha said. Starting something on your own is never easy. I started my fashion line, but I dealt with enough self doubt to fill a room. It's terrifying to think about putting yourself out there, but every step is worth it. A hum of agreement passed among the group, and Ikemba leaned in, his gaze piercing yet supportive. Hadley, you underestimate yourself. The passion you bring to everything you do is inspiring. You'd crush it. Before she could respond, Gwendolyn interjected, Wait, I have one. I always wanted to go to culinary school, but I'm too afraid of failing, of being laughed at by my family. A collective gasp rippled through the room, the weight of her admission hanging heavy. You cook like a dream. I didn't know, Hadley exclaimed, her eyes wide. I always thought it was just a hobby, Gwendolyn confessed, her voice trembling slightly. But, in truth, I dream of opening a little cafe where people gather, connect, and feel at home. Why don't you just go for it? Ikemba said, his voice steady, but tinged with an undercurrent of emotion he hadn't intended to expose. We've all got fears. What's stopping you, really? An unexpected silence pressed in, the air thick with unspoken realizations. Buzzer, again came Imba's voice, sharper this time. The room erupted in laughter, a coping mechanism mixed with deep acknowledgement. It's like I'm the only one getting called out here. Gwendolyn laughed, wiping a faux tear from her eye. Maybe it just means we care enough to push you all into a place of honesty, Ikemba replied, his sincerity palpable. I guess we all have uncharted territories we're too afraid to travel, Deshawn mused, glancing around the group. Let's map them out together. The conversation shifted, smoothing out the fears and revealing a tapestry of dreams interwoven with support. It was then they realized something sacred. Vulnerability could unearth not just dreams, but a community forged in shared struggles. I can't believe a question from www.seriousgame.net sparked this, Hadley said, looking around at the faces filled with determination brightening the room. She wasn't too afraid to dream anymore, not with these people beside her. As the laughter faded and the hopes glimmered like stars igniting the night, they each held moments of clarity. Let's make a pact, Tasha suggested. We'll hold each other accountable for chasing these dreams, starting tomorrow. Hadley nodded, her earlier uncertainty starting to peel away, revealing possibility. It felt like a new dawn breaking in their lives. Together, she agreed, the hint of a smile blooming on her lips. Let's light the way. As the warmth of their support enveloped them, they understood that every unspoken dream was a seed taking root, bursting forth under the light of mutual encouragement, ready to flourish. Scene 39. Challenging assumptions. The heavy rain drummed steadily against the windows, the sky shrouded in a thick blanket of clouds that mirrored the tension hanging in the air. Inside the living room, the glow from the dimming lights barely cut through the growing storm outside, casting elongated shadows over the gathered group. Hadley Varela leaned back against the plush couch, her arms crossed, looking every bit the tiger ready to pounce. Okay, let's see what else this game has for us, she said, glancing at the phone resting in the center of the coffee table, a device summoning deep truths. The tension was palpable as they had just navigated dark waters, and the group was still reeling from the last revelations. Ikemba Commander ran a hand through his damp hair, leaning forward, his forehead resting on his intertwined fingers. All right, let's see if we can challenge some assumptions tonight, he said, a hint of dry humor in his voice, though it barely masked the weight of uncertainty. The app buzzed softly, and the group leaned closer together. Next question. What is a personal bias you've held against someone in this room, and what made you question it? The voice from the AI felt almost omniscient, and the group felt the walls closing in, the personal stakes rising. Without hesitation, Lila, a newcomer to their circle, broke the silence. I thought Hadley was just a loudmouth with no real substance. Since joining this game, it feels like I've seen her peel back layers I didn't think were there. She blinked, her usual bravado replaced by vulnerability. I see now she has this incredible drive that's actually really inspiring. Hadley's eyes widened, surprise flickering across her features. Wow, thanks, Lila. Just don't tell my boss that, she joked, relief mingling with her grin. But I get it, Leela continued, enthusiasm igniting her voice. I used to think people only yelled when they were insecure, way too much noise over nothing. I've been guilty of writing off the passionate. A ripple of laughter erupted, and Ikemba chimed in with a smirk. So we're back to the loud means wrong stereotype, huh? Sit down, Shakespeare. Honestly, it's funny how we all really just want to be heard, Hadley said, the reality of her own loudness washing over her in a wave. I can't help but shout because of how little people listen. Toby, perched on the armrest of the couch, offered a different perspective. I thought I wanted to just be one of the guys, you know? Never thought I'd resonate with the girls' side of things. But now, he hesitated, gaze shifting to Lila. I realize I've got baggage too. I'm tired of pretending I'm always okay. Buzz! The laughter erupted as the moderator, Mike, activated the buzzer right before Toby could finish his thought. The humor in the room instantly shifted to playful embarrassment, and everyone glanced at Toby in mock horror. That's one half-hearted admission. We're here for vulnerable truths, buddy, Mike teased, his eyes bright with mischief. Toby chuckled, shaking his head. Okay, I'll bare my soul then. I doubted Lila was authentic, you know? Thought she was just trying to fit in with us. The room stilled, but when I saw how she fought for what she believed in, I realized you can be tough and genuine at the same time. I appreciate that, Lila replied, a gentle smile warming her features. It's refreshing, but coming from you, Toby, that really means something. The atmosphere shifted again, a warmth enveloping them, and Hadley's voice rose, almost playful. All right, let's dig deeper. Is there anyone here you've assumed you wouldn't like, just based on, I don't know, let's say looks? Ikemba leaned back, an amused expression taking over his normally stoic face. Well, I thought Toby was just some kind of jock without any thoughts beyond sports. Glad to see that's not entirely true. All assumptions are flawed, Hadley declared, her voice lifting the mood further, sparking camaraderie. They make fools of us all. With a nod, Mike activated the buzzer again. All right, class, that's enough bandwagoning. Let's get personal. At that moment, they seemed to forget the oppressive storm outside, the group's laughter mingling with the cacophonic rain, laughter echoing off the walls, deeper connections forged in the flickering light. Just as the last chuckle faded, Lila turned serious, her brow furrowed. But what if this game is just showing us how much we all hide behind our fears? Hadley considered Lila's words carefully, the intensity of her gaze burning brightly. I guess the question now is, who do we decide to be when the masks come off? As they sat closely, the collective weight of heavy hearts mingled with laughter, the laughter that told stories of enduring trust, and the bitter realization that assumptions can often blind the truth. Scene 40. Rekindled friendships. The evening sun cast a warm glow through the living room window, illuminating the array of mismatched party hats strewn across the coffee table. Hadley Varela meticulously stapled together cardboard shapes, her laughter ringing through the air like a melody. Who knew creating a giant birthday card could be this hilarious? She exclaimed, adjusting a hat that covered her messy bun. Ikemba Commander sat across from her, flicking through the colorful scrapbook pages. You mean, who knew you could turn crafting into a competitive sport? He shot back, his eyes glinting with dry humor. Hey, it's artistry at its finest. She shot back, a playful flick of her wrist sending a few feathers floating through the air. He chuckled, but beneath the banter, the room buzzed with an unspoken tension existing far beyond the silliness of paper crafts. In a shadowed corner, Brixton, a mutual friend, watched the two with a cautious curiosity. He had known Hadley since their college days. So are you guys ever going to admit there's something deeper going on here? He said, surprisingly candid, as he joined them at the table. Ikemba raised an eyebrow, trying to mask his surprise while Hadley's face flushed slightly. Admit what exactly? Ikemba replied, brushing a feather from the table. That you two have chemistry, or whatever. You know, that connection that makes people as uncomfortable as it does giddy. Brixton leaned back, arms crossed, clearly enjoying the view. I thought we were keeping things light, Hadley protested, but the corner of her mouth lifted up in a challenge. Light is overrated, Brixton retorted, his grin infectious. The game dictates we confront our truths, What are you two really hiding? Ikemba shifted. We're not hiding anything, he insisted, but the edge in his voice betrayed a hint of discomfort. Just then, the electronic buzzer from the game app, embedded in the bottom of Brixton's phone, rang out, cutting through the levity like a serrated knife. Laughter erupted, easing the pressure, with Hadley pretending to shield her eyes dramatically. All right, you've opened Pandora's box. Let's see what else we can unpack. Fine. The comment slipped out of Akemba so easily that it surprised him. He looked around and saw the expectant faces. Let's answer one of those heavy questions from seriousgame.net, he suggested, visibly lightening up. Okay, but I'm moderating. You both better come prepared. Brixton smirked, leaning forward with feigned seriousness. Hadley's eyebrows shot up. He's serious. Don't hold back. I want honesty. Like either of you could ever hold anything back, Akemba muttered under his breath. He fished his phone out and swiped. Let's see. Here's one. What's a secret you've never told anyone? Wow, starting with a bang, aren't we? Brixton clapped his hands almost giddily. How about you, Hadley? She sat up, fumbling momentarily with her stapler before meeting their curious gazes.